Hello everyone, welcome back to US Healthcare Academy. Today's topic is the basic file structure of an EDI file. What I'm going to cover today is how this file is generated and from where it is generated. Secondly, what all information outputs on an EDI 837 file. And we'll also see the structure of an EDI 837 file. So let's get started. So when all the information about all the patients that a doctor have seen in a day is entered in an EHR system, that information is sent to the RCM system, which is Revenue Cycle Management System. Sometimes it is sent automatically through HL7, and sometimes the biller has to enter the information manually in the RCM system. Once the information is entered in the RCM system, that process is known as charge entry. And once this information is entered, the charges has to be validated and they have to go through a scrubbing process. What that means is that the system will check all the charges and it will check that all the information that is required on a charge is present in that charge. So once that validation process is done, there are two things. One, some of the charges will fail validation and some of them will pass the validation. The charges that fail the validation, they need to be corrected or else they would not qualify for billing. So once those charges are corrected, they will qualify for billing, and then there is a process of claims billing. So the claims are billed and the 837 file is generated. Now, what all information is there on an 837 file? So an 837 file contains file header. I'll go into details about what a file header is. Okay. And if you have watched my video on CMS 1500 form, these are the same fields or exactly the same information that outputs on the electronic version of CMS 1500 form. So it is the billing provider's information. Example, you visited St. Mary's Hospital. So St. Mary's Hospital will be the billing provider. Subscriber's information. So if you are the primary policy holder, your information will output in the 837 file. Patient's information. So suppose your spouse is getting treated, then your spouse's information will output and she's the patient. Payer's information. This is the insurance company's information, like Medicare, Medicaid, or whatever insurance you have, like BCBS, Aetna. Claim level information. Claim level information includes the referring provider, like if you have been referred to St. Mary's Hospital by by a PCP, then that referring provider's information will output in the claim file. Rendering provider information. Rendering provider is the one who is actually treating you. So, for example, if Dr. John Smith is treating you, John Smith will be the rendering provider. Service facility. So, St. Mary's Hospital, Chicago downtown. If you're getting the services there, that is the service facility. Supervising provider. So, if Dr. John Smith is a trainee doctor or he's a physician assistant or a nurse practitioner, then there will be some senior doctor who will be supervising him, and that is called a supervising provider. Diagnosis information. So whatever condition you're suffering from, that information will also output. Procedures or service lines, which is also the service information. So once you're diagnosed with something and whatever procedures are being performed on you, that is the procedure information. Payment information. So payment information means that suppose this claim is being sent to a secondary insurance and the primary has paid something on it. So all that information will also output in the claim file. And lastly, the claim file ends with a trailer. Now comes the interesting part. So guys, if you want to take a snapshot of this, please do it. So how is an EDI 837 file structured? To explain you the structure of an EDI file, I'll have to relate to this with an example. So let me give you an example. So as a provider, in a particular day, you see 100 patients and you want to send the claim forms for 100 patients to a payer. And also you want to send 50 eligibility inquiries. So what I will do is, and just imagine this is a world of paper and there is no electronic data interchange. So in that situation, what I'm going to do is, I'll take a big box and I will take all my 100 claim forms and I'll wrap it up with a paper, and on that and the top of it I'll write 837 so that the payer knows that this is the 837 bunch, and I'll wrap the 270 eligibility requests with a paper, and on top of that I will write 270 so that the payer knows this is the uh, eligibility request. So basically what I'm doing is I'm grouping them, and then I'll have two compartments in the box. In one compartment I'll put that bunch of 837 claim forms or the CMS 1500 forms, and in one compartment I'll put the I'll put all the eligibility requests. Now what I'll do is I will seal that box, and on the box obviously I will have to mention the from and to address. So this is coming from Dr. Jay Chaudhary's clinic and this is going to Medicare. Okay, now let's relate each and every segment to our box. So basically the interchange control header ISA is nothing but it's the entire box in which I will have the from address, I'll have the to address. Okay, now if you look at this example here, look at this ISA segment. Okay, and if you see there is a submitter ID here and there's a receiver ID. Now because this is an electronic file, I don't need to mention the entire address like I do in the paper world. On the box I mention the to address and the from address, but because this is electronic version, so each and every entity is assigned a unique ID. So the submitter ID is my ID, Dr. J Chaudhary's clinic, and the receiver ID is the payer's ID. So the system knows that where this file has to be sent. Okay, now what is functional group header, which is GS segment? So functional group header is basically those compartments that I have created. So basically I have arranged, I've grouped all my claims and I've grouped all my eligibility requests. So that is a functional group header. Okay, which is this GS. That also has sender code, receiver code, and the version. So version is nothing but it's a version of the EDI file. Before 2012 or 11, this used to be 4010, like 4010, and the newest version is 5010 x222. So that is the version of the EDI file. Now what is the transaction set header? So transaction set header is nothing but it is that bunch of CMS 1500 forms or that bunch of eligibility requests that have wrapped a paper around it and have written 837 on it, and on the eligibility I have written 270 on it. So basically this ST, if you see it says 837, that means that whatever transactions or whatever information is between this ST and SE segment is nothing but whatever I have mentioned here. So 837. So like remember how I've written on that paper that this is a bunch of 837 files and this bunch of 270 files. So that's our transaction set header. And if you see the real-time example, it is ST, and then element 1 is 837, and again the version of the file. Okay. Now, if you see all this information, I've mentioned loop 1000A, loop 1000B, submitter information, receiver information, billing provider name. Guys, this is all the information that goes out on a CMS 1500 form. And if you haven't watched my video on the CMS 1500 form, please go ahead and first watch that video so that you know what all information goes out in a claim file. Okay, so submitter, it's basically Dr. J. Chaudhary's clinic. So this is submitter 1000A, Premier Billing Services, but instead of this, it will be Dr. J. Chaudhary's clinic. Okay, receiver's information is basically the payer where I'm sending this file. Billing provider, which is St. Mary's Hospital. Okay, subscriber information, which is in the last example I mentioned that subscriber is the primary policy holder, so all their information will go in this loop. 2000B, 2010BA, 2010BB is the payer name, so all the payers information will go in this loop. Patient's information will output in loop 2010CA, loop 2000C. Claim information goes in loop 2300, and we have already discussed what claim information is. So that is referring provider, rendering provider, service facility, supervising provider. If there is ambulance service involved in the claim, then the ambulance pickup location and drop off location will also output in loop 2310E and F. Other subscriber information means that if this claim is going to primary insurance and if there is a secondary insurance, then the secondary's information will go here. If this claim is going to secondary insurance and if you have primary insurance who has already paid on it or on this claim, then all the primary information will output here. Loop 2400 is service line. Service lines means whatever procedures were performed to treat you, all that information will output here. Now guys, in my last video, I told you what a segment is, what a delimiter is, what a segment separator is, but intentionally I didn't tell you what a loop is. So in this video, I'm also going to cover what a loop is. So loop is basically nothing but, see, you have 100 claims, okay? And all this information will repeat for those 100 claims. And because it is repetitive, that is why it's called a loop, okay? However, the actual EDI file that outputs doesn't have any loop. Loop is just for better readability. You know, there are EDI file parsing softwares in where just to make it more readable, loops are assigned in front of each and every segment. Like this is loop 1000A, you know. So example, if I want to say that, oh, who's the billing provider? For billing provider, normally I would say, if I look at a raw EDI file, I would say it's segment NM1 qualifier 85 and it is Ben Kildare service. But to make it easy for readability, I'll just assign a loop to it, and instead of saying segment NM1 qualifier 85 element 3, I will say loop 2010A segment NM1 element 3. Okay, so just remember, a loop is something virtual, that is not something that actually outputs on an EDI file. It is just for better readability, that's it. So guys, in this video we have covered the basic structure of an 837 file. Okay, going forward, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through each and every segment, like the ISA segment, GS segment, you know, NM1 segment, SBR segment, and I'll take you through each and every field or each and every element in that segment and what that means, if it is mandatory or if it is conditional, and if it is conditional, then what is the rule for that condition, when it should output. So guys, stay tuned. Until next time, You guys take care and have a good day. Bye bye.